everyone, I am here with my end of June wrap up. I have read 8 more books on top of the 7 that I read at the start of the month. I will link that one up in the cards if you haven't seen my mid-month wrap up. So I've read 15 books this month and these are the books that I've read and let's talk about them. Okay, so the first book that I finished was American Gods by Neil Gaiman and I gave this book 5 stars. This book was so good. It did take a while for me to read this one. It is one of those books that you just get sucked into. I can understand why some people are not gonna like this book, but for me, reading this book was such an accomplishment. Like, I feel like the smartest person alive, and now I have like a grown-up book to talk to people about. And I read Smile by Raina Telgemia, I think that's her name. I don't have it in front of me. I just wrote down the book that I read because I suck. This one 3 stars. She writes graphic novels. I've read another one of hers, Drama, and this is a story of her getting braces when she was a teenager. It was just cute. I read this like really quickly. It was available on my Overdrive app, so I got it and I read it. The next book I read for a really funny reason, and that is because I was listening to like a shuffle of music while I was doing my laundry, and it was Young and Beautiful by Lana Del Rey. So I was like, I own The Great Gatsby, I'm gonna read it. And I read it. I read The Great Gatsby. Like, that's the most random book ever for me to read, but it's another intelligent grown-up book that I can say, oh yeah, I've read that. You know, I enjoyed it. I just checked it out a couple of months ago, you know what I mean? Because that's just the sort of person I am. Then I read this book that took me 5 million years, it feels like, and full disclaimer, I say this every time I talk about these books, I don't really like the Shadow World. I don't care. I just do not care about the Shadow World. So I read Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy and I gave this one 3.5 stars. Like, it was a bit all over the place, obviously, to help wrap together the Blackthorns and the Carstairs and everything that's going to be happening with, is it the Lightwoods? No, like, I feel like maybe it is gonna be in the next series, The Dark Hours. Is it The Last Hours? When I read Lady Midnight, there was a reference to something that happened in Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy, and it's like every single Cassandra Clare book. I cannot recommend these to people unless you're kind of up to date with them, because it just is so much dedication to reading these books, and then I need like a month-long break out of the Shadow World and I've forgotten everything because it's not something that interests me enough for me to retain the information. But anyway, I completely digress. This book is Simon's time at the Shadowhunter Academy and everything that goes along with it. The thing that I didn't like about this book is that some of the novellas are obviously going to be used as sort of the segues into things for The Dark Artificers and also The Last Hours. So there are some stories that happened to characters from the Infernal Devices, because I can't even tell you that, because if you haven't read the Infernal Devices, you're like, that's a spoiler. Some of the Infernal Devices characters' children, the Shadowhunter Academy, and the way that it's told, like, it starts back, you know, in the 1920s, maybe like 1910, like that sort of thing. And then you hear the whole story of that, and then it like basically just like pans out, and it was Katarina Loss telling Simon the story of these people. Like, it's just like, it's really obvious that Cassandra Clare just needed to have like this backstory so she could do future stories about it. But whatever, like I said, 3.5 stars, classic Cassandra Clare. Listen to the audiobook of The Reptile Room by Lemony Snicket. I love these audiobooks. They are so good, and my Overdrive app at one point did have every single one of the audiobooks and now they're gone. So I was like, okay, cool. I put the next one on hold, which is The Wide Window. But when I was waiting for that to come, I read Dreamfall by Amy Plum. I listened to the audiobook of this one. This book is told from 3 points of view. I did read in someone's review that one of the characters, like, it's never explicitly mentioned what gender they are, but I just want to say that if, you know, you've heard that as well, in the audiobook it is narrated by a man, and I think that there are male pronouns used in some reference point. I don't know if the person writing the review just didn't notice that. There's one girl, I think her name's like Kata, and then another dude, and then a guy who's like a trainee doctor, and he's on the outside seeing the experiment. So basically these kids are in a trial. They undergo this experiment where something goes wrong during the procedure where they're trying to get them into the REM sleep, and there's like a power outage and something crazy happens, and then something kind of supernatural stems from that. I only gave this book 2.5 stars because I listened to it all. I mean, obviously I listened to it on 2 speed as well because I am a really fast reader, and that's sort of like how I'd be reading it. I also think that when I speed things up, it definitely goes with the story more. There are frantic moments in this, there are parts that are stressful, and I think that sort of quick speaking is what it needs. Probably will read the next book. I don't know if it's going to be a trilogy or a duology. I'm hoping that it's just going to be a duology because there was something that it was like the cliffhanger moment. I was like, if you try to drag this out through 3 books, it's going to get really tiresome really quickly. But that's just my opinion. That's just me. Then The Wide Window by Lemony Snicket came in to my Overdrive app, so I listened to that one, loved it, and now I don't have any more audiobooks to listen to from Lemony Snicket, so that's fine, I'll just have to read them, I guess. And then the last book that I read this month was the worst book that I have read in very many years. I would not recommend anyone to read this book. This book is ridiculous. This book is horrible. I am sorry if you're a fan of this book, but no thank you. It is Finding Kyllo by Siobhan Davis. I gave this book 1 star. I would have given this book -100 stars if I could, but Goodreads hasn't gotten with the program yet. This is the book about a girl named Faye who has been orphaned. She is sent to America to live with a family that has 5 very good-looking boys. Does this sound like the Royals? Because it is a Royals ripoff, but unfortunately it also involves incest. People that Faye is sent to live with are her cousins. Her mother had concealed from her that she had an uncle, and she was sent to live with him when that happened. So this book was fucked up for very many reasons. So horrible. Like, there was a point where one of the brothers is having a threesome, and Faye, who has been trying to make out with her cousin, just, you know, totally disgusted by walking into that. Or that it will turn out that they're not even related. Like, that's the other thing that will happen in the series of the books, but count me out of that. I cannot do it. Sorry that I went on a little bit of a rant about that, but that is everything that I read in the month of June. Let me know in the comments down below if you've read any of these books. You know that I love talking to you guys. I will see you in my next video. Bye.